Before we get started, we wanted to thank Liberty Mutual Surety for sponsoring this episode of Let's Get Surety. Liberty Mutual Surety provides contract and commercial bonds for all size companies and contractors around the world. Liberty Mutual is here for you today, tomorrow, together. For more information on Liberty Mutual's breadth of surety products and solutions, visit www.libertymutualsurety.com. Now on to our show.
You're listening to Let's Get Surety. Let me hear your bonding talk with Kat Shamapande.
Hey everyone, it's Kat Shamapande. Thanks so much for joining us for this episode of Let's Get Surety. Got with me today my co-host Mark McCallum, CEO of NASBP.
Hey
Mark.
Kat, we got a special guest today.
Very special guest, NASBP's newest president. I've got with me today Patrick Pribyl, National Surety Team Leader and Senior VP with Lockton Companies. Hey Patrick.
Good morning, Kat. Good morning, Mark. Nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
We are so glad to have you on. We're excited to have this opportunity for us and for everyone listening to learn more about you as our newest NASBP president.
Well, let's go all in on that.
Why might you be saying all in, Patrick?
That's my theme for this year. We're going to have a awesome East meeting and West meeting. We have most of the program kind of already identified, at least our keynote speakers. We're thrilled to have the one and only Andy Fastow as our keynote speaker for Austin, so we're definitely going all in Austin.
That's terrific.
I love it.
And for those of our listeners that don't know, Andy was the former CFO of Enron, which to this day is still the largest single surety loss our industry's ever seen.
Oh, my goodness. That'll be some interesting information.
So how are you going to prepare people for that little bit of
Excellent question, Mark. We're going to have our very own Martha Perkins, our general counsel, is already arranging a panel of experts that'll take a deep dive into all things Enron leading up to our annual meeting. So you can catch both those panels at the East and West meeting. I know Martha's working hard to make sure they're slightly different presentations, so I'd encourage folks to go to both.
That's terrific.
That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, we'll make sure we include links to register for both those meetings in the description for this podcast so people can go ahead and get registered.
We identified during our executive committee visit last year under President Newton, we visited Sampo. They invited us in to talk to their underwriting team, and while we were on that visit to Nashville, we scouted out a up-and-coming rising country music artist, and she's has graciously accepted our invite to speak during our East meeting in Nashville. And then we've also found a professional poker player who's going to go all in Vegas and talk to us about having to go all in her line of work, being a professional gambler.
That's exciting.
Yeah, that should be fascinating storytelling.
Should be a good time for one and all.
Yeah, very nice. So, all in, that is a fairly inclusive theme. So tell us more about that and why, in particular, you chose that. And is that emblematic of you and your career?
It somewhat is. It's really emblematic of my time on the NASBP, whether it was Industry Relations Committee, Regional Vice President, Director at Large. My first experience with NASBP was a young Lockton associate, and in 1999 I was able to attend the convention, I believe it was in West Palm at the Breakers, where Jim Petito was installed as the new president. And Jim, most people don't realize, is married to my oldest sister.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so Jim was an original founder of Lockton back in the early 70s and spent his entire career at Lockton, almost 40 years. And so I followed in his footsteps. But I noticed back then, the executive committee of NASBP, they were all in. We didn't have the staff that we do today.
Yeah. And
most of those folks really had to roll up their sleeves. If there was an industry issue, I remember being able to listen on Jim's conference calls with the Dennis Flatnesses of the world and Daryl Dodsons, and they would, strategically talk about a solution, and they'd be the ones that would narrate, a letter to an obligee or to a state or municipality trying to affect change. So I noticed that way back in the day, in order to get the most out of NASBP, you really had to go all in. And as we fast forward, we are so blessed to have the amazing staff that we all have right now, which we had staff back in the day, but not as extensive as we do today.
Well, it seems like we've been driven by an ethic of volunteerism, and that seems to carry forward today. Yeah. So we are very much needing grassroots efforts, volunteerism at all levels. And there are a lot of opportunities, aren't there? So you've had.
I've noticed the uptick in the 515 Leadership Club.
Oh, yeah,
Why
great
don't
point.
you talk a little bit more about 515.
515 is great. I happen to be on the membership committee the year Steve Corey kind of coined that phrase and really kicked it off, and it's been building momentum ever since.
Yeah.
I think we've recently installed 9 new members, if I'm right, and that group's now up into the mid-30s, if not low 40s.
Yep.
Their attendance at our recent fly-in under President Newton's watch was very successful.
Yeah.
They really lifted attendance and participation, and I'm sure that group's going to go all in this year as well.
Awesome.
And that's such a great way to be building the leadership. It's easier for them to go all in when they've got that opportunity to build up to it.
They're going all in when they collectively make a 7 a.m. breakfast.
So when you say the 515, these are producers who are young in their careers, is that correct?
Usually identified as someone with at least 5 years of experience and no more than 15. So ergo the 515 Club.
Right.
It's made up exclusively of brokers from what I know. And it's gaining a lot of popularity and a lot of momentum. They have, I think, 1 or 2 trips a year where they'll visit a affiliate carrier partner, and they'll engage in activities throughout the convention and throughout the year, again, building momentum, trying to be inclusive in that group, and reminding them to go all in on various committees, and they do a great job.
That's really interesting. So you said they visit the carrier partners and they have opportunities at meetings. Now that's when you're talking visiting carriers, you're talking about visiting with a senior executive team, aren't you?
Yes, we. This would have been a couple years ago when I was the 3rd vice president. President Newton and myself traveled with that group to Des Moines, Iowa, where we met with the senior leadership of Nationwide and Merchants Bonding. Merchants hosted us for a very nice dinner, and that group was able to see kind of a behind-the-scenes look as to how a carrier runs. So they visited with every major department head at Merchants, including claims, and got a kind of a daily run-through as to what activities they handle each and every day.
I mean, would you ordinarily get that kind of exposure?
I don't think the carrier partners are pretty gracious with their time and their openness to share the challenges they face, which I think as a young broker coming up through NASBP, that's a behind-the-scenes look that you rarely get.
Yep.
And I think it provides for greater transparency in that relationship.
That's terrific.
Now, you had mentioned some of the other committees that you were involved with, like industry relations and so forth. I imagine they always need good volunteers.
They're constantly looking for fresh ideas. Yep. And that starts with again, one of the things I'm most proud of is the survey that you helped us create a couple years ago that really asked the members what they valued from NASBP, and it gave us greater insight into the things that it validated that the things that we think are important, that our members find value. Right. And I think overwhelmingly that survey response was that, yes, our members do indeed find value in our seminars, in our podcasts, definitely in our schools, and all the offerings that we think they should value, they do. And so that made me feel confident that as we look at membership and maybe expanding membership to recruit new members, I think we do have a value proposition that's unheard of in our space.
Excellent.
That's a great point. Yeah.
Well, it should all be all in, right?
That's right. And we heard it from the members who were all in to begin with.
Yeah. So maybe hit some of your highlights of your volunteerism in NASBP, because obviously you've had a long, successful career. Part of that was through your activities with NASBP. How did that play out in terms of helping you?
Well, some of the relationships that we've had, I'll share a story that we had a road and bridge contractor that was doing some emergency levee repair work down in the New Orleans area back when Katrina hit, and they needed the product, our surety bid bond, before they would be awarded the work and then the final bonds. We had, through NASBP, we have this relationship built up as we often compete against one another, but at the same time, we're a friendly competitor, and that we were able to successfully contact a local New Orleans agent who went out of their way to get our client the bid bond and final bonds they needed in less than 12 hours so they could do that emergency repair work. that I wouldn't have known who to call or where to even begin had it not been the relationships that we enjoy through NASBP.
Yeah, the value of the network.
The value of the network is unbelievable.
Wow.
And we're I work for the Lockton companies, and we're a large agency. We have offices in many different locations in the U.S., but we're not everywhere. And when it's needed, I'm always pleasantly surprised at the availability of another agent who's an NASBP agent to step up and help us out.
Yeah. So based on your experiences with NASBP in your career, what kinds of advice would you give I'll call a producer young in their career? Because we know sometimes there's somebody who might be in banking, finance, or whatever, and they want a career change or insurance, and they discover that Surety offers them an opportunity because they value relationships. And they
Well, I'd obviously tell them to go all in.
Okay.
Right.
That makes sense to me.
That's going to be my calling card for the next 12 months. So once you're all in and you're dedicated to the space, your integrity and your character are everything. I don't know of any single underwriter or broker that I've met in my career that if they had a good reputation and they were trustworthy, they've found 100% employment 100% of the time. So I would tell you to value that the things that NASBP stands for, the professionalism, the character, the integrity in dealing with your markets. And so often a competitor one day might be the head of a surety the next day, and you're going to need those relationships. So the world's too small to alienate anyone, and it's especially too small to alienate anyone by being a bad character.
Right.
Such a great point. I mean, you talked about trust and character, and as president of NASBP, you'll be teaching the ethics classes at the level 2 surety schools.
That's right. I'm most excited about that. When we come across different examples and videos throughout the years, I've shared some of that with you, but I kind of have my own thoughts on trying to maybe put a fresh spin on that. And again, I can't emphasize it enough that that's really all you have in this career is your word, is your bond, and you can have an unbelievable career, make an awful lot of friends, and there's no need to cut corners and not be what you should be to the industry.
Right.
Such a great point, and it goes hand in hand with your theme.
Exactly.
Yeah. What are some of your other priorities that you see that you would like to achieve or get rolling in this year?
Former President Newton and myself will be visiting and speaking to the Women in Surety group out in California. Great. Right. So that's I see that group as probably the fastest growing group inside our subsection. We're thrilled to be invited guests to go present to that group. We look for that group to grow across the country. I think California was one of the initial I'm not sure how they're structured, but one of their initial sections, and I see that momentum definitely moving across the country. I know there was a recent event that some of my staff attended in Chicago, so I see that as a really growing area that allows us to be way more diverse. And, as we all know, our newest third vice president. Right?
Yeah.
We got a 2-for-1 there.
Yeah.
So for those of you who don't know, Monica Donatelli is the newest incoming third vice president, and she's with child. So when we say we not only got one person, we actually got 2. So we're very excited for her involvement.
More hands on deck.
We need Kat. We need all we can get.
The youngest member of the board.
That's right.
That's terrific.
Hopefully she'll be licensed by the time we can already get her on the ranks.
That's terrific. So, Patrick, you've told us a little bit about how you kind of started out in your career, how NASBP has helped you in your career, your theme, what's coming up this year. Is there any advice or other information you'd like to share with those listening?
Well, if you remember from my first speech as the president, I asked folks to give their fair share and a little bit more when it came to volunteerism.
That's great.
Right.
And then I'm reminding them that if they were so inclined, if you went all in, you'd really get the benefits.
Right. So you're basically saying when you go all in, then dividends come to you.
Absolutely.
Through your involvement and engagement.
10 times over.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome, Patrick. It's been great having you on. It's good getting to know you and letting everyone get to know you as they listen to this
I love the view
episode
from your studio.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
We'll have to have you back again sometime.
I would love to, Kat, anytime.
You've been listening to Let's Get Surety. Brought to you by the National Association of Surety Bond Producers. For more information about the NASBP and its members, visit nasbp.org.
Before we go, we just wanted to thank Liberty Mutual Surety again for their generous support in supporting this episode of Let's Get Surety. Liberty Mutual Surety provides contract and commercial bonds for all size companies and contractors around the world. Liberty Mutual is here for you today, tomorrow, together. For more information on Liberty Mutual's breadth of surety products and solutions, visit www.libertymutualsurety.com.